Can you identify these everyday sounds?
Cheers here.
We are live, folks. Thanks for joining the live stream. Smash team. We're looking at the sun here at 193 angstroms. We see a large, well-defined equatorial coronal hole just passing the Earth-facing region over the past 48 hours, which is the length of the video we're watching, as another coronal hole forms above this active region. So earthquake risk is going up big time, folks. Also, there's a high-speed coronal hole wind stream on the way to Earth right now, expected to impact on July 5th from this coronal hole on the equator. And it's going to be hard and heavy because it's very perfectly Earth-facing, and it's going to be a significant coronal hole wind stream. So get ready for some geomagnetic unrest, most assuredly. Also, we see the North Pole coronal hole growing and the South Pole shrinking. So some more phase variance here with the sun as it remains out of magnetic phasing. How about 304 angstroms view for the past 48 hours? We clicked it once. I guess we just had to click it twice for some reason. That coronal hole so well defined, you can even see it in the 304 angstroms view, which is not always the case, which means it's going to be blasting quite a high-speed stream. Again, that expected to hit the Earth's magnetosphere on July 5th. Some filaments rising there on the east, as well as setting on the west. Let's look at magnetic lines and move on, because there is a plethora of stuff to cover. Here's the magnetic lines at 94 angstroms. And we see a bunch of clotheslines associated with this plage here. We also do need to look at the magnetogram. And in case I didn't mention it, because I didn't mention it, there are 0 sunspots. Here's colorized magnetogram. And all we see is a bunch of mixed magnetic fields. This cycle 25 plage is breaking down into a barely in anything. So as cycle 24 solar minimum drags on, we do see some events associated with cycle 25 evidence, and that's a good thing, folks, as you don't want solar minima to drag on too long. Let's look at magnetosphere movies here right after the solar wind. So here's the real-time solar wind, which is very low, very weak, as stated in the title. We try not to be redundant, and we try to compress as much info as we can. So we see a fairly negative BZ here, fairly high BT, indicating a strong B field with a negative orientation, a southward orientation. So that is associated with earthquake risks, and we are waiting for additional coronal hole magnetic connections here, which are really the ultimate earthquake risk. And we saw some in here, but more of a fleeting connection there. We also see big perturbations in the magnetosphere as solar wind speed dropped all the way down to, looks like 0.2 protons per cubic centimeter there. But now it's up to 1.12, which is extremely low, as well as the solar wind speed, which is extremely slow. So low and slow, that is the tempo. Magnetosphere extremely weak. Magneto hydrodynamically speaking. Here's the density. This is the last 4 hours courtesy of University of Michigan Geospace Model. You're going to see this puff out with a bunch of low density solar wind coming in as that solar wind density drops down to less than 1 at certain periods. Again, low density shown in white, high density shown in navy blue here. This is what we typically see during solar minimum periods, and then an uptick there in the density at the end. Here's the pressure, which you're going to see is extremely low, as when you combine low velocity and low density, you're going to get low pressure. Now, again, this is magneto hydrodynamics, folks. It's not quite the same as regular fluid dynamics because magnetic forces have to be taken into consideration. And these models include a lot of stuff. The space weather model framework can be accessed at the bottom of this. Just take the space weather modeling framework, click on that. That'll explain how the models are derived if you are interested. Let's go a little closer to your planet here. Look at the perturbations in the Earth's own B field. As the current flows in at the poles, folks. It flows in at the poles. I would note that we did see the extreme drop in solar wind density right around here. And I would note that ground geospace perturbations are not instantly affected by the solar wind typically, as we have a thing called a magnetosphere. However, we also do have 2 north poles, one over Siberia and one over Canada, as well as one creeping into the Indian Ocean in the south. If you weren't aware, I'm not delighted to tell you. But I am delighted to tell you about smAsho because we've got a mission, and it's kind of important. So please support us on Patreon. Thanks, patrons. We've only got to replace $3,333 a month, and we'll go full time. So support us also if you take CBD products, or if you want to take CBD products, visit the links in the description below this video for our Spaced Out campaign, for our Spaced Out viewers. We formulated it just for you. And Hemp Lucid's offering 30% off 1,000 milligram whole plant CBD, and that's the hemp oil variety. So you get the benefits of the hemp oil. You get a longer dosage time due to the slower absorption. If you want faster absorption, go for a water soluble. If you've never tried it, go for the 250 milligrams. Also sales on Cocky certified THC free products. And there's a lot of stuff. So visit the links, support the channel if you can. If you'd like to sponsor bike racing, please email me at smashomash@gmail.com. Yeah, smashomash@gmail.com if you want to be on the jerseys. As certainly next year's are possibilities. And keep in mind, folks, next year's an Olympic season. So we've got 2 riders that are technically on the women's Olympic long team. That's Kim Geist and shop owner Becky Quinn. So again, if you want to be in the jerseys, last I checked, the front chest and back pockets were still open. Just email me at smashomash@gmail.com. Many other opportunities available. Also, buy bike and buy parts. My bottom bracket wore out yesterday when I was on my 44 miler, and I need a new Ultegra Italian Cup bottom bracket for my utterly outdated bike, because mine is so beat up that it was creaking on the final climb yesterday, and that was not welcome because it was 90+ degrees and very humid. Anyway, we've only got to replace another $3,333 a month, and we will go full time on this channel. And we'll host a lot of stuff in a lot of different places too. If you enjoy the music, check it out on soundclick.com/GoldenCat Productions. There's also a SoundCloud page with some older stuff. 10.7 centimeter radio flux is I think it's back up to 68 last I checked. This is refreshed. If you didn't know about the eclipse, we're going to cover a little bit of that later. It occurred yesterday, mainly over South America and over a bunch of fish in the Pacific Ocean. X-ray flux is totally flatlined. We're talking about the GOES X-ray flux. You know, X-rays coming out of the sun, that sort of thing. The strongest radio source in the sky. The radio source that cancels out all other radio sources in the daytime, especially at solar maximum. Yeah, that radio source, the local yellow dwarf. You got it. GOES magnetometer. You see some striations there. Perhaps that's the sector crossing there in the current sheet. Perhaps we're on the north side of the current sheet. We'll look at the gong too in a moment to look at the top view of the data. KP is at 1. Surprisingly, despite the solar wind being as weak as it is. And electron flux is back up to more normal levels, although still quite low. Not as low as it was on July 1st, which is exceedingly low electron flux. No charging hazards. And the F2 layer is actually highly charged on the nighttime side. Now it's normal again. So 10 minutes ago, it was pretty charged up on the nighttime side. And that was because of the weak solar wind. You end up with more charge on the magneto tail side than you do on the bow shock side. It's just the way the current flows to equilibrium, folks. There's your aurora forecasts. Let's look at the LASCO C3. We haven't done this for a while. Don't expect to see any ejecta here, but we'll let it play through anyway, as we do not need solar flares to have coronal mass ejections. I'm not sure if you're aware, but it's true. The sun is able to fling plasma with no warning and no X-ray flares. I think we're looking at old data here. Let me just make sure we got the newest. All right, so we've crossed the sector here. We are into the North Pole associated current sheet. As this data is 2 hours and 18 minutes old, and that GOES magnetometer data. This is part of the sector crossing here. And this may continue to be looking like this throughout the day today, as these connections are often sputtering. And again, keep in mind there is a coronal hole wind stream on the way. There's an active region. So there's a lot of magnetic field fluctuations, especially as that new coronal hole forms behind the plage, the large plage on right on the equator. So it's sort of a weird shadow activity. And this sort of activity is totally not covered by things like sunspot number, 10.7 centimeter radio flux, or total solar irradiance, as there are about 9,000 variables, which must be understood in order to understand solar activity, which is why we've started our nonprofit organization, looking to make your donations tax deductible by New Year's Eve. Anyway, this data 2 hours, 18 minutes old, and what we're talking about is the crossing of the polarity boundary here between the North Pole associated solar field, the current sheet, the plasma sheet, the heliospheric current sheet, whatever you want to call it. Some call it the heliospheric current sheath. We're not expecting any large perturbations in the GOES magnetometer, though. It should smooth out for the duration of the North Pole zone. Let's look at stereo A space weather beacon here, the stereo A's coronagraph, as we see a plasma plume being held in place by that active region near the solar equator behind that coronal hole. So we've been watching this for days, and it's actually increasing in size a bit here, and it's pretty much pointed directly at Earth, folks. So that does have the capability to release. I mean, it's got a coronal hole on each side of it. Enough said. Here's the Planetary Locations Milky Way galaxy team at the planets today. Here's where they'll be in 1 week. 1 day after Saturn opposition. Here's where the stuff is above my head right now. As it is 5:24 a.m. Do you know where your Venus is? It's just risen if you're in the eastern U.S., as we are here at the smAsho channel. Follow us on other social media, such as Twitter,
disaster for the sake of peace.
such as Twitter, and
$50,000. This is $50,000.
yeah,
This is $50,000.
That the data's been protected.
it may be that the data's been protected, folks. Anyway, follow us on Twitter, twitter.com/smAsho if you like. Although I don't tweet, you can share the videos there. Facebook.com/smAsho. Censorship capital of the internet. This is my ultra. This page here, this is my ultra radical extremist page. It's got about 5,000 friends, so I had to make another one. Anyway, follow me on Instagram also. You see some more amusing stuff that has nothing to do with space weather, except that you're in space, so welcome.
I think it is about that time. And then there were two. Good ride so far. It's an eyewitness account. You're on the spot, guys. What do you say?
It's hot, but good.
The most riders all year with 3. And then there were
Which trains the next generation.
Two. The Tesla Model 3, it's officially sweet, Brad. It's out the interior, Instagram folks.
Parking
on the way.
in
Drink your extra bite.
summertime employee parking lots.
Check it out. It's got storage in the front and the back. Damn! Well, it looks like one of those days with no cool down, folks. It's a little on the warm side out here. 44 miles complete. Shout out Marcus Begeman. We didn't get to stop and see you, bud. Anyway, maybe later in the week. Be safe out there, cyclists. Holla. I think it is about that time.
Anyway, follow us there. You might even get a recipe for this fried chicken in an air fryer. I haven't even posted that yet because I haven't had time. Also on Gab, we're actually starting to use that as a real social media where we actually post stuff, such as how to live without Google. We'll give you a link. In fact, there's already a link in the description to this video. If you want to learn how to live without Google, use stuff like open source software, such as Minds.com, the social media that will not censor you. I noticed we've gained 0 subscribers over the past 3 days. We're just pegged at 1337. I think somebody at Google probably thinks that's funny. And we think Google's funny. Cover that later. Check earthquakes over the past 24 hours. How about a 5.8 at the Carlsberg Ridge? That's a pretty big one there. Southwest of India. We don't see many there, but we have been seeing some recently. About once every 2 or 3 weeks, I believe. How about a 5.1 at Papua New Guinea? They probably shrugged that off as if it was nothing. How about a 4.1 at Argentina? At quite a deep depth there. Shout out to those watching from the Andes. Here's a 4.0 at Chile. 4.4 at Alaska. 4.6 at Alaska. Near Anchorage, it looks like. 5.5. South of Australia, not even on a plate boundary. Check that one out, folks. That's funky. That is a weird one. I don't see any geologic features there. Looks like it's at a pretty flat spot in the ocean. Looks kind of like a plate boundary there, though. That area right there could be a plate boundary, or perhaps it's a rift zone. Leave a comment if you think that's magmatic activity. We won't argue. We'll act like you're an expert. Quite a few earthquakes on the list here, folks. Another 4.0 at Alaska, 4.2 at Afghanistan. At depth, heads up there. Afghanistan viewers, if you're in the U.S. military and viewing this, leave a comment, even if you're not in Afghanistan. Also, leave a comment. Let us know what you're doing on the 4th of July. We're just making some burgers and drinking some beers. How about a 4.5 at Guatemala? Central American quake, heads up. 4.6 at Greece. On the opposite side of the world from Fiji. Here's a 4.1 at Alaska. Farther north, I don't know what that region is, so I'm doing some geography lessons to myself here at your expense. North of the Pinguk River and the Nutgurk River. Awesome. Leave a comment if you felt that quake in Alaska. Although since there's probably nobody there, leave a comment anyway. Very deep quake at a very large magnitude. That would probably be nearly a 7 magnitude quake if it happened at the surface, as that is 574 kilometers depth and a 5.8 magnitude near Fiji. As the earthquake risk continues, another coronal hole forms in the sun, which is another earthquake risk. So we got 2 coronal holes at the same time, an active region, a coronal hole wind stream on the way, and deep quakes. If that's not maximum earthquake risk, I don't know what is. Southeast of Fiji. We'll look at low pressure maps in a minute, as low pressures are the other variable that seem to be associated with large quakes at the surface, which are the ones that cause the damage, folks. Here's a 4.9 at China. Thanks for reporting. Here's a 5.3 at Alaska. Very far north and pretty far east, too. 4.6 at Alaska, 4.6 at Mexico, 4.5 at Colombia. Colombia at depth. So heads up there for a larger quake at the surface. And lastly, a 5.0 at some crazy place, Viscoy Island. A very desolate spot there. Zoom out to show you the location of that. Does appear to be on a plate boundary. Here's the pressure maps. Anomalous low pressure systems are associated with earthquake prediction, folks. I don't know how else to tell you that. Here's the current situation. We're going to let this play for about 1 day. Anomalous lows there near the Philippines, as well as obviously a tropical system here west of Mexico. Also some oddly shaped systems here. This looks pretty anomalous to me. And a powerful low moving up Japan toward Kamchatka. So lots of earthquake risk factors, folks. Do a volcano rundown as quickly as possible. This video is getting long real quick, and there's still a lot of stuff to cover. Krakatoa back on the list. Kluchevskoy producing a 20,000 foot plume, uptick there. Shiveluch exploding and producing a 15,000 foot plume there. So 2 different volcanoes going off on Kamchatka at the same time. Welcome to the Northern Hemisphere, folks. Krakatoa back on the list, eruption reported by Ground Observer. Also, risk level raised at Mauna Loa. We covered yesterday the earthquake that occurred underneath the Mauna Loa caldera. So if you weren't watching, it's probably because we're censored and shadow banned on all of the major social media organizations. So share the videos, because we don't get on any recommended or trending lists ever. Anyway, 2 days ago, the alert level was raised to yellow, and yesterday there was a 4+ magnitude quake. And maybe it wasn't 4+ magnitude, but there was a quake underneath Mauna Loa yesterday. I think it was 4+ magnitude, actually. And I believe it was at an above sea level depth. Please leave a comment if you remember. I can't remember. The Hawaiian Volcano Observatory reports that an eruption is not imminent and current rates are not cause for an alarm, but they do indicate changes in shallow magma storage systems. Popocatépetl, back on the list, exploding and producing a 19,000-foot ash plume. Fuego, 15,000-foot plume there. Revenador, 16,000-foot plume there. Sabancaya, don't pole vault that. It's a 30,000-foot plume, and that's pretty hot pole vault. Major volcanic uptick. I got the AccuWeather Doppler radar. These are ground-based systems, folks. If you weren't aware, you think this is from space. That's not how Doppler radar works. Please leave a comment if you're confused about everything from geoengineering to atmospheric physics to the functioning of ground-based systems versus satellite observations. Heavy storms over Ohio. Could you keep those out there? Looks like I'm going to get rained on today, folks. We're just going to ignore the weather section entirely. Actually, this is an interesting convergence right here. Let's do a quick zoom in. North Dakota. North Dakota's getting cosmic ray fluxed. South Dakota. All right, no big deal there. Let's take a look at Ohio here. Nothing to get your cornfields in a bunch about, but there's some heavy rain hitting. Let's hope it's not flooding again for the 8,000th time this year. Check out lightningmaps.org if you hear thunder. It could save your ice cream sandwiches if you get a cooler ready because of a power outage, because of knowing the distinction between your ass and a hole in the ground. This vulgarity-free section brought to you by Big Tech. Captain, sensors indicate censorship, fraud, political bias, and spyware emanating from Big Tech. Now, we're not a fan of Big Tech. I don't know if you were aware or not, but we may have to squash certain companies like insects for their overreach. We're not a fan of overreach and censorship. So we've got some opinions on things like Facebook's algorithms, as we're not really a fan. Now, their programmers aren't our favorite either, but their algorithms are contemptible. Speaking of contemptible, censorship is really contemptible. And nowadays, who needs the government for censorship when Big Tech will do it for free, for quote free, end quote. So thanks, Mark. I'd just like to state to Google and Facebook and Apple and Twitter that you can't break the internet, but the internet can break you. So if you're watching this video, please screen rip it just in case it gets deleted, as our whole channel could be deleted in seconds before you're able to even see this. And thanks, the Smash team, for being rational humans, not political hacks. Let's define a verb. YouTube monetization is a
Scam.
definition. No, we want the noun here. We want the noun. A fraudulent or deceptive act or operation. Let me reiterate. YouTube monetization is a
scam.
Ever wondered how to live without Google? Well, there are links in the description below this video on how to do so. Please do so. Next time you use Google as a verb, you should probably understand that what you're stating is that I would like to do a web search with utterly biased and monetarily biased as well as politically biased results. So please stop using Google as a verb. It makes my ears bleed. Apparently some other people agree that Google's not a verb. So use DuckDuckGo, the search engine that won't store your personal info, won't track you, won't put ads in places, and won't even track you out of private browsing mode. Speaking of private browsing mode, how about Brave browser? Check out brave.com for the free download. Since you're not a product and Brave's trying to fix the internet, one of the many ways that these companies are unable to break the internet is through companies like these. Brave and DuckDuckGo. Let's look at some stats. Gold broke out of its high, and it's well beyond a 6-year high now. If you weren't aware, there it is. Silver, nowhere near that. Again, there's gold. There's silver. There's gold. Oh, there's silver. $15.33 per ounce. Here's wheat, which, although food prices are going to rise for at least a year on the entire planet, there are wheat prices. You think all those crop losses are factored into the market, folks? Let's look at some other agricultural futures. How about soybeans? There's the soybean prices. Let's look at all the data. Here's how high they can get. Let's also look at corn prices, futures, etc. This will be the last agricultural future we look at. Now, we were warning of rising prices back here when record snow fell in the Northern Hemisphere for the 2nd year in a row, causing record melting and record flooding for the 2nd year in a row in the U.S. Also, the worst agricultural season in the history of the U.S. occurred in 2019. The worst planting, the worst crop losses due to flooding, the worst grain losses due to flooding. And the price went down. And then finally, way up here in May, after everything should have long been planted, the prices went up. Here's where corn prices can go. There you go. So if you think they're at incredible highs right now, yeah. This is the last solar minimum, by the way. Let's call it a day with that and look at the S&P 500. There's the 1-year chart of that. Here's how overvalued this is. The all data chart. That is utterly overvalued. Bought with cheap money supplied by Federal Reserve banks. That is a bubble. This is a bubble too. Bitcoin, speculative investment. Check out the run up in that. Man, here's the all data. And it doesn't display this correctly on CNBC. I don't know why. I don't care. Anyway, there's the 1 year of Bitcoin. And here's the 1 year of Ethereum. It looks just like the gold versus silver. Correct me if I'm wrong. There's Bitcoin. There's Ethereum. move on to MRIs and Robitailles. The world's smallest MRI performed on single atoms. I don't know if you heard about this. I meant to cover it 2 days ago and I forgot. Fortunately, I leave tabs open for a reason. So anyway, somebody's taken an MRI of the magnetic field of a single atom. And there are some images, links in the description to this article as well. It's all over the internet. Let's talk about MRIs and let's talk about censorship and hacks and people like Galileo who are accused of being cranks when they understand the actual physics and the spectra. And they get listed on disparaging rational wiki articles like Pierre-Marie Robitaille. They left out the fact that he's a doctor of radiology. And the holder of a MRI world record, being the first person to ever build a 8 Tesla ultra high field human MRI scanner, which he had to use on his own head, by the way. His colleagues said it would kill him. Anyway, he knows more about astrophysics than you do, undoubtedly. And he knows about 7,000 times more about astrophysics than Neil deGrasse Tyson does. I don't think we left links to this article because it's just a disparaging article. Also citing the fact that he probably knows more about astrophysics than Dr. Myron W. Evans, Stephen J. Crothers, and David Talbot. Maybe not. David Talbot. Anyway, links to this page are in the description below the video here. This is the Ohio State University Department of Radiology page about Robitaille, as he remains a professor there since 1989. And anyway, this is the record holder of the many of the highest resolution MRI images, at least of humans of all time. So anyway, if you're not familiar, Kirchhoff's law is super important to astrophysics, and as we have to measure things like stellar bodies using spectra, since they're very far away. So check out his YouTube channel, where he will explain some of this stuff. Links to this in the description also. How about a little clip? Actually, this video is getting way too long, so no clips. Visit the channel, watch literally all of the videos. And let's go back to malware and spyware and crankware and junkware and scamware. ExtremeTech.com reports China's installing Android malware on tourists' phones. Yeah, oh yeah, and it's bad. You can probably download it at the Google Play Store, as the Android operating system is owned by Google, who facilitates most of the scamware. Now, Google ads are on 75% of the 1 million most popular websites tested. We're not sure how many websites are on because we can't test all of them, but Google ads pervade the internet. And anyway, if you'd like to install this software on your phone, please don't do so, as it's going to copy information from messaging, contacts, and searches phones for thousands of different documents. Everything from Turkic Muslim documents to there's even a song that they're searching for. How do you like that? I don't remember what it is, but there's even a song by the Japanese metal band called Unholy Grave, which they're searching for songs by the whole band, and that band has a song about Taiwan. Oh, China. China, I'll keep paying federal taxes as long as you can't drop a bomb on me. Science Alert article about a new archaeological discovery on the Tigris, a grand palace of a mysterious empire known as the Mitannis, who dominated swatches of northern Mesopotamia and Syria. Not much is known about them. This site is largely intact. Read the article if you like. I don't care. I got some eclipse videos. This is probably the best one right here. Shout out Science Alert if you're watching the videos. I'll just zoom in on that. Thanks, Science Alert. Well done. At the same time that there's a hurricane going on too, by the way. Check it out. Way to go, Noah, Kansas City. Check it out. That is fantastic. A Category 4 hurricane. Now, if you're a flat earther and you can explain this, please leave a comment. Cosmology article, as we are done with this stream. So stay tuned for about 2 more minutes and leave a comment if you want to be recognized, because I haven't gotten through the comments at all yet. I haven't even brought them up. Anyway, NGC 5907 has been noticing some interesting filaments. As you can see, there's a leading trail here and a trailing trail, which is more faint. And it turns out, I mean, it's very tough to see on this. Maybe I can contrast it out by using Photoshop or something. Maybe I'll try to do that for the thumbnail. But in any case, this trailing stream at least appears to have a corkscrew-like shape. And I'm sure you Electric Universe nerds out there are aware that corkscrew-like shapes in galactic scale plasma streams are Birkeland currents, aka co-rotating regions. You could say electric current, plasma transfer. There's a million different things you could say. You could say it's electromagnetism. But in any case, links to this article from phys.org also in the description below the video. So visit all that stuff, support the channel if possible. Let's go to one more bonus feature, the fake news capital of the internet. I looked on my phone at CNN.com, and the first 5 articles were anti-Trump articles. How's that for reporting? It's the Counterfeit News Network. All they do is report on anti-Trump stuff. The woman who disparaged, the woman who said she wouldn't visit the White House on the U.S. soccer team was benched. Was it because Trump ordered it? No, it was because she pulled her hamstring, just in case you were wondering. Trump's grandiose 4th of July plan says everything about his presidency. Trump claims military is thrilled to participate in his celebration. Trump's baby balloon granted permit for July 4th event. Analysis, Trump's July 4th spectacle just keeps getting more absurd. Government takes an unprecedented step for Trump's July 4 rally. Opinion, Trump takes the 4th of July, makes a 4th of July parade for himself. Anderson Cooper, are we celebrating our freedom or Trump? Is this just the Trump corner? Do they have like a Trump applet on their homepage now, on their splash page? Man, they're splashing around in a whole knee-high pile of crap at CNN. What important news? Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh! I'm so outraged about the 4th of July celebrations. Fireworks are racist, sexist, bigoted, and homophobic, folks. Fireworks are homophobic, racist, misogynists. They will indiscriminately burn women, people of color. No regard. We're skipping cosmic rays as the smAsho stream is almost complete. So thanks for leaving comments, everybody. I do see them, believe it or not. I'm watching in phantom mode right now. No one is allowed to know where or who I am. Just kidding, folks. I'm not a CIA shill, if you're wondering. If you think I'm on some sort of taxpayer payroll, I laugh at you wholeheartedly. Here's a 335 angstroms view. Again, let me reiterate, massive earthquake risk. 2 coronal holes about to face the Earth, one just done facing the Earth, one about to following that plage. Coronal hole wind stream on the way to hit on July 5th. Lots of stuff going on. Let me try to get through the comments. And we just had a sound train wreck there. I don't know what that was. Cosmic ray flux. Again, thanks for joining, everybody. I appreciate all the comments. It helps the channel analytics. It helps to keep us unshadow banned. Please share it all on any social media you can, as there are all kinds of indications and pieces of data and screenshots that we're gathering for various reasons. I won't go in any more depth into that than to say that. All right, we are out of here, folks. Thanks again for tuning in. Please don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already done so. Please share on your social media for all the reasons stated earlier in the video. Please stare at the sun. Try to understand the physics. And since it'll never be now again, may the solar wind be at your back and the atherosclerosis absent from your veins.